after the announcement that TNA was coming back, you could feel the energy between the fans.
You sell so well.
My goal is for them to ask the ref, is he really okay or is he selling?
You think you'll retire in TNA?
I can't answer that question because I don't know.
You had interest from AEW, WWE. What made you decide to stay in TNA?
My relationship with Scott is more than just a boss talent relationship. I've made money playing in the NFL. Going to AEW or WWE, money wasn't attractive. When my time is done, when you hear TNA, the first name you think about is Moose.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
Look at that thing.
Yeah.
Man. Is it okay?
Yeah.
I'm already touching it.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Man, you're a much nicer man when you're not in the ring.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I'm calm Moose right now.
Dude, they did such a great job.
Like before they did the revealing, I actually thought that it would make sense if they just brought back the old TNA title, right? But then I saw this and I was like, you know what? This is much prettier.
Well, it's a new era of TNA too, right? So why not have a new championship?
Yeah, they did a great job. Whoever crafted this did an excellent job.
So you held the other TNA World Heavyweight Championship when you self-proclaimed yourself.
Self-proclaimed. I mean, we all know the reasons behind that, but it's actually, it feels great actually holding the real thing and being actual TNA World Champion.
Yeah, how does it feel that TNA's back?
Great. Is something that within the boys that we've always talked about, and we've always said to each other, like, what if TNA came back and we wasn't Impact Wrestling anymore and we're just TNA? Like, and nobody, I didn't know personally, they never told me anything. I'm the last person that finds out about anything that's going on. And I remember the night, I think Josh was in the main event, and everybody was like, make sure you watch the monitors after the match. In my head, I was like, what's going on? Is like, is CM Punk coming in? Because he was a free agent.
That's right. Yeah.
I was like, is CM Punk coming in? No way. Like, well, I'm going to watch the monitor. And then the match is over and the reveal happens. And there was a reaction video. And you could see me jump up, get on the chair, and start chanting, TNA, 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 like with the rest of the boys. I think that was probably the most epic part of the year last year for us.
There's something about the nostalgia that's tied to those three letters.
Yeah.
Like everybody remembers when TNA first started 20 plus years ago and all the incredible matches then. I think that idea is what people are so tied to with this brand. And the fact that TNA is back, man, look, it's an exciting time in wrestling in general. Right. The fact that TNA is back is incredible.
Even the shows we did after the announcement that TNA was coming back, you could feel the energy just change within the fans. Like, as soon as the show starts, the crowd is chanting TNA, TNA, TNA. And you know, you've been on a few wrestling shows, and you know, in a 3-hour show, by the main event, the fans are tired and they're worn out, and it's kind of, you got to try to pick them back up, like, especially if you're in the main event. But in the shows we did after the announcement, they never died. Yeah. They were always alive. They were chanting TNA, 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 TNA the whole night. So I already knew. I was like, man, Hard to Kill is going to be a huge night. And I get the main event that. Yeah. I get to be in the main event of the first ever relaunch of TNA. Like, dude, awesome.
Hard to Kill was so good. Every match in that card, start to finish, was amazing. Mm. Your match was, the storytelling in that was so good. You winning the championship.
Appreciate it.
And then afterwards,
I don't think anybody was expecting what happened afterwards. Obviously, I wasn't expecting it either. But just rethinking the whole moment, I thought, because obviously they set it up like in weeks prior that, there's going to be a huge signing and this person is showing up at Hard to Kill.
And they said, and you won't believe who's there.
You wouldn't believe who was there.
Okay, so this has got to be massive.
I think the way they set it up, they announced Dana Brooks in a women's championship match. And everybody thought, oh man, Dana Brooks, that's awesome. That's a new signing at TNA. I mean, Scott D'Amore was talking about. Yeah. So nobody thought anything was going to happen. And then I win the title and I'm celebrating. And Nick comes out from nowhere and kicks my ass. Like,
kicked your face in.
Yeah, he's going to get his back. But Yeah, and I mean, it just shows how great the year's starting off, and it's only going to get better. I promise you that it's only going to get better.
I don't think anybody had it on their bingo card that Nick Nemeth would be wearing a TNA t-shirt with the crowd chanting TNA with him inside, in the TNA crowd.
Right. And we said prior, before we even started this interview, a holy shit chant just from us being in the ring facing off with each other. It's like, and that's like, whenever that match happens, if it happens, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you got to give him that match.
I mean, he has to earn it. Yeah, he has to earn it, and then he has to get his face kicked in back for doing what he did to me a few weeks ago. Yeah.
When was the last holy shit chant that you had?
Oh man,
do you even remember?
I don't remember. It's like,
when you're in it, can you even hear the chants? Do you pay attention to that, or are you just so focused on the moment?
I'm so focused on the moment and what's going on, and what I'm gonna do next and what's going on, that sometimes I just have to tune out the crowd. But there's sometimes I listen to the crowd, because obviously the crowd dictates what I'm going to do or what my opponent's going to do and what we need to do. But there's sometimes that, okay, we have to tune them out for a second, because I have to catch my breath, first of all, to go 10 more minutes. And so to answer that question, the last holy shit, honestly, maybe when I wrestled Rhino and he put me through a ladder, I'm sure that was a holy shit moment, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But I would never forget that moment with me and Nick face to face.
And that's just the beginning of it too. Yeah. I'm sure you guys are going to have a great match or several great matches, and
I'm sure he's going to have great matches with other talented guys on our roster. And people, there's a crazy thing about it. You go on Twitter and you see all these idiots that never watch the product and only say bad things. But then you watch the product, and as soon as you watch it, you're hooked. Because you're like, oh my God, I didn't know TNA was this fucking good.
Yeah.
And we are. We, I think, in my personal opinion, are the best wrestling company from top to bottom.
We'll get back to the conversation in just a second, but I'm going to assume we have a lot in common here. Not only do we like pro wrestling and great conversations about pro wrestling, but I bet that you like saving $1 or $2 or $10, because I know I do. So I started using Rocket Money recently, and they let me know that both my wife and I were both subscribed to the same service. We were obviously only logged in on one, but we were paying for both. Not anymore. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps to lower your bills. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and then Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, myself included, and they save you on average $750 a year, which tallies up to $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use and cancel your unwanted subscriptions today by going to rocketmoney.com/CVV. That's rocketmoney.com/CVV.
People need to stop sleeping on TNA.
Right.
The in-ring stuff is so good. Literally every match last
night knocked it out of the park. I watched the whole pay-per-view, and
How did you watch the pay-per-view? The show ended at 9 or 10.
My greatest gift is probably my greatest curse. It's one of those things that, when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to give it, I'm going to tune out everything and focus on that one specific thing 110%. And when I decided I was going to be a wrestler, this is my job. This is what I do. So I watch a lot of wrestling. Watch a lot of old wrestling. I watch a lot of my favorite wrestlers growing up, and I take little things from every little person and create who Moose is, So
the show ended last night, and then you went and watched the show?
Watched the whole show, yeah. I have that athlete mindset. It's when I play, people forget I played football for half my life. So it's one of those things that after practice, what do? You watch film on practice.
Yeah.
After a game, what do? You watch film on the games because you're trying to see how you can get better for the next practice and for the next game.
Yeah.
And I take that same approach for wrestling. After wrestling, I go back to the film room and I watch it. Oh, what should I have done better? Did I react to the crowd a certain way? Should I have done this better? Should I have sold this better? What should have my facials on this moment right here? So I take it very, very, very serious.
I think people don't put two and two together there. Like obviously in sports, you're watching tape and trying to get better. I think people assume when you're watching wrestling, you're watching it like it's, for fun, like you're watching for entertainment.
Right. And that's not me at all. At this stage of my career, I look at wrestling just like I did with professional football and just football in general. I love it. It's my job and I want to perfect it. And the only way to perfect it is to constantly practice and watch yourself and honestly grade yourself. Like there's sometimes I might have some performance and I might go to the back and people will be like, oh, that was a great match. But then I'll watch it and I'm like, oh, at best that's a C+.
So how would you grade your match with Alex Shelley from Hard to Kill?
Honestly, I think my match with Alex Shelley was top 5 best matches I've had.
Good. Okay. I was going to say, if you were like, oh, it was a C+, I'd be like, hell no.
No. It was top 5, one of the best matches I've had. And I have tons of respect for Alex. I think he's one of the greatest minds in pro wrestling. He's a great, excellent wrestler. And then you put him and Sabin together, and I think they're by far the best tag team in the world. But like just being in that moment with him and just, I even learned things as I'm in the ring with him, things that he does, subtle things that he does that nobody notices. Like he's always like, if you watch Alex Shelley match, he's always playing with the fans and like trying to get them going. And it's like, and I'm watching it, I'm like, that's something I need to start doing. Yeah.
Even as a heel?
Even as a heel. Like, I mean, obviously I don't do it. I don't need their energy, but I could do it in a different way, in a heelish way,
Yeah.
And that's something he's always doing. He's always playing with him. He's never not doing something. And that's a great asset in pro wrestling. He's never not doing something. He's always either selling, and when he does a move, he's like, give me your energy, give me your energy, give me your energy, get into the match. And as a fan, you see a guy working his ass off doing that. That makes you want to,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's little things like that is like, that's one thing I got from him 5 minutes into the match. Is like, oh man, like, he's tons of respect for him.
I don't think people talk about your selling enough.
Oh, thanks.
Dude, especially someone who is the size that you are, you sell so well. And you make it so believable.
So it's 2 things with that. When I first got into wrestling 10, 11 years ago, I was in a company called Ring of Honor. And I met a guy called Chris Hero. And one thing Chris Hero told me that always stuck with me, he told me exact words. He was like, you're not going to be determined on how good you are about the things you do offensively. We're going to determine how good you are about how you sell. And that always stuck to me. And another thing, part 2, one of my favorite wrestlers to this day is Brock Lesnar. And the reason why he's my favorite wrestler is for probably the wrong reasons. Because yes, he's a monster, he's a beast, he kills people, but that's not why I like him. He's in my opinion, the best seller in pro wrestling. I've literally watched a match with him versus Ric Flair and 60-year-old Ric Flair. And in that match, I literally thought the 60-year-old man was going to beat this beast, and all due to this beast selling. And just watching that, I knew, okay, whenever I get to this spot, I have to do a good enough job as he's doing, or a better job than him, to be successful and be good at this. And that's every time I go in a match, if a guy tells me, oh, I'm working a body part, I know the whole night I'm going to sell. My goal is for them in the headpiece to ask the ref to ask him, is he really okay or is he selling? That's my goal, to get him to ask me that.
Yeah, I think what's so good about it is you make it seem like the other guy could win at any point in time.
Right.
And the way that you sell big moves, you're like, I mean, you're 6'6",
Yeah.
and you're flopping around like you're 5'6" or something like that.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing.
Thanks. It's a lot of work, man. It's like I said, when I told myself I was gonna leave that life of football and get into professional wrestling, I put 110% into it, and getting in shape, losing weight, being more agile, putting in countless time in a film room, watching some of my favorite wrestlers, and some of my friends are like some of the best wrestlers in the world. So they're just them being my friends. I learn from, like, Eddie Edwards, one of my best friends. I look at him as a brother, and I've learned so much from Eddie. I did one of my longest tours in Japan. It was probably like 4 or 5 weeks was with Eddie. And just in that short period of time, I learned so much about Japanese wrestling and how they do things different there. And then you have Brian Myers that, it's funny that I name him. He's a good friend of mine, but we just became close in the last maybe year. And just in this last year, a lot of people don't give credit to Brian on his knowledge for wrestling, like things that he does as a heel that is so freaking good. And I get to learn from him every day, because for a while we was a tag team. Then you got guys at other companies like Ricochet, probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. Real good friend of mine, and I get to learn from him. The guy that, if Scott D'Amore, a mentor, big brother role for me, actually brought me into wrestling, probably one of the greatest minds in wrestling. I get to learn from him. I just think because of who I put myself around, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm in this position I am today. Like, just being around great human beings. Apollo, I forgot to mention him, such a great wrestler. In my opinion, I think he's being underutilized right now up where he's at, but he's a great wrestler, great friend of mine, and I get to learn from him. It's like, without those guys, all those names I mentioned, and probably some that I'm missing, I wouldn't be in the position I am.
We'll get back to it in just a second, but I have to tell you about Magic Spoon, because one of my goals this year was to cut back on sugar, and Magic Spoon makes that easier and more delicious than ever. Their variety pack has 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. And this pack has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs, and only 140 calories per serving. So it's high protein, 0 grams of sugar, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. So this right here is my favorite, the fruity flavor, and it's like eating a bowl of wholesome nostalgia. You've got all of those great fruity flavors there and 0 grams of sugar. Go to magicspoon.com/CVV to support the show and to give Magic Spoon a try. Use our code CVV to save $5 on your order. That's magicspoon.com/CVV. Now it's time for me to eat some more of this. Time for you to enjoy the rest of this interview.
When you talk about getting into shape, you didn't just get into shape. Like, when you look at your before and you look at your after, and especially when you look at the shape you were in at Hard to Kill and your entrance, like, you're shredded. Everyone's talking about, oh man, Randy's in great shape. AJ Styles is in great shape. Moose is in insane shape.
Thank you. That just goes to first of all, I couldn't be in that shape without a guy we both work with.
Yeah.
AJ Sims, probably the best.
At Cement Factory.
At Cement Factory, at Instagram. The greatest coach that you could have. Actually, great individual.
Well, yeah, what a great dude. We love you, AJ.
He's just a great human being. But then it goes to my mindset. Like, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to put 110% effort into it. So when I told myself that, and this is not the first time I've like trimmed down to get into how I look like now. I first met AJ during COVID. And I was a little big, chubby, probably 285, 290. And I told myself, you know what? I'm going to get in the best shape of my life because I've never done it. And I think that's one thing that I haven't done that. And because of that, I haven't been able to break that barrier of like the top wrestlers in the industry. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't look like a top guy. Like I don't look like a Randy Orton, how he looks, or like a Brock Lesnar. I'm just a fat guy that is athletic. You know,
I don't know about that.
I mean, that's how my mindset was. So I told myself, you know what? I'm going to treat this like I treat everything else in life. I'm going to put 110% to get in the best shape of my life. And luckily I met AJ and he rolled out a plan, stuck to it. And I went from 295 to the leanest he got me was 3 years ago was maybe 250. Yeah. But as we both know, being that lean is not, you can't live like that year round.
No.
That is impossible.
Yeah.
So I gained a little weight and then I gained probably about 20 pounds. And when they told me I was going to be in the main event of the relaunch of TNA, I was like, you know what? I have to go mental and get back in better shape and beat how I looked like 3 years ago. And AJ put down the plan, same plan that you have. And I put 110% into it and I looked crazy yesterday. Got so many compliments from friends and colleagues and people that work at other companies about how I look. And AJ still getting hit up by a bunch of wrestlers trying to get him to help them. So it's a great thing.
When you look at his resume of everybody that he's worked with, and I'm going to miss a whole bunch of names, but it's like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, Elias, you, Apollo, Drake Maverick, EC3, me, although I'm not a wrestler.
No, but you look great, dude.
Thank you. I got in the best shape of my life when I turned 40.
Yeah.
And like I lost 25 pounds, I think, in that process. But it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But and the funny thing is, people think we look like this and all we do is eat cereal. I talk to my friends and like, because after a heavy leg day, sometimes I would eat like a box and a half. Amount of cereal. And people just instantly think that I eat a box and a half of cereal every single day. And I'm like, so you look like this and you eat a box and a half of cereal? It's like, I have to sign up with this guy. But like, no, you still have to put in the work. You still have to do your faster cardio. You still have to do your post-workout cardio. You still have to eat your 6-ounce chicken and 100 grams of rice, depending on what the day is. You still have to put in the work. But yeah, every day you're going to have some kind of treat that's going to make you want to do it the next day. It's not like, I've had a lot of coaches. And the reason why AJ is the best because he sets it up that it's actually doable. And it's not just you eating chicken and rice every single day, every single meal. And like, no, it's like, for me, with my plan, and it's probably similar to yours, I get cereal every day after a workout.
But the fact that we're even talking about, like, you have your own plan, I have my own plan, everybody has their own specific plan. I think that is something that needs to be talked about more.
Right.
I think people think it's this cut and paste, like, here's the plan for everybody.
Everybody is different. Like, we can get every guy AJ has worked with, and all our plans are completely different.
Completely different. I didn't eat any chicken. And I was on it for 13 weeks. I didn't eat a single piece of chicken.
Right, yeah.
And that's going to blow people's minds because everybody thinks it's chicken and rice.
Yeah.
I was a lot of lean ground turkey.
Right.
I had a lot of lean beef.
Right.
And I had bison.
Yeah.
Those were and eggs, of course. Those were my proteins.
Right.
What are yours?
See, mine changes. So sometimes it'll be 99.1 ground turkey.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll be like, okay, now you could get to 97.3 ground turkey. Sometimes he'll be like, oh, we want chicken. Sometimes he'll be like halibut. Like, it changes.
I didn't get any halibut.
Like, so
I got some shrimp.
Same thing, shrimp. Sometimes it changes. But
no salmon.
For this cut, it was mostly chicken and 99.1 ground turkey.
Yeah, so like super lean.
Yeah, super lean. Yeah.
It's amazing. So Ethan Page, you've seen the shape that he's got into recently.
He's working with Cesar
Bernard.
Yeah.
And he goes, "What's this deal where you guys get to eat cereal? I don't eat cereal." Like, I don't know.
But I mean, like I said, I've worked with different coaches, and some coaches don't like the cereal method. Some coaches do, and I just love that my coach, the one that actually matters, likes the cereal thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, and it worked.
It worked, and it works. Like, it's proven it works. So,
and you look like the champ. You are the champ.
Thank you.
Look like a guy who should be holding that championship.
Thank you.
At your very heaviest in the NFL to your leanest now, what's the difference in weight?
Oh man, my very heaviest, I was probably 318, 319.
Well, you're an offensive lineman, right?
Yeah, offensive lineman. And the leanest AJ ever got me was probably 247.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It was weight, like, I felt super depleted. Like, I felt like just walking up and down the stairs was hard for me.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and I was like, you know what? I want to stay around 255-ish, maybe 260-ish. Like, this cut, like, I don't want to go below that. And we did a good job. And for the next pay-per-view, we're even thinking about bulking up to maybe 260s, 265 to see how I look.
Man.
That heavy and lean.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
you re-signed the longest contract in TNA history.
Yes.
Last year. You had some options to go elsewhere.
Yes.
You had interest from AEW.
Mm-hmm.
You had interest from WWE.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to stay in TNA?
There's a few things. Number one, I'm a very loyal person, and my relationship with Scott D'Amore, I honestly wouldn't be in the position I am today if I never met Scott 10 plus years ago. So it's hard for me to ever say no to him when we're discussing, you know what I'm saying, numbers and what my future would be. Because, like, I feel like in this business, first of all, I played in the NFL for 7+ years. I've made a ton of money doing that. So money was never some pressure to me.
And you were good with your money?
I was good with my money. Fortunately, I was good with my money.
Because I'm sure a lot of your teammates were not.
I mean, that's you hear bad stories. Luckily for me, fortunately for me, I did good. I saved a good bit. So money has never been, you know what I'm saying, something that rained heavy over my head. Like, oh, I need money. I need so. But I'll stick to Scott for right now for the first reason. My relationship with Scott, playing in the NFL for so long and knowing that business could be so cutthroat and they could really let you go in any second. But my relationship with Scott is more than just a boss talent relationship. It's almost like big brother, little brother. So he's had to be my coach, be my friend, and be my boss. So now I had to think about that. Like, if I go to AEW, I don't have a relationship with Tony, so he's literally just my boss. If I go to WWE, I don't have a relationship with Hunter. He's really just my boss. So some of the situations I could potentially be in, it's just a boss talent conversation. Where here in TNA, it's a friend conversation, a big brother, little brother conversation, then there's a boss talent conversation. So I had to throw that in, you know what I'm saying? That was a big decision maker for me. Number two, because I've made money playing over 7 years in the NFL, money wasn't a huge burden for me where I needed money. So going to AEW or going to WWE the money wasn't attractive, you know what I'm saying? Because I've made that, like, you know what I'm saying? And for me, the guys who know me would tell you, everybody loves me because that's my goal, is to make everybody love me. But some people hate dealing with me because my greatest gift is also my greatest curse. I take wrestling so seriously that if I'm going to go somewhere, I know how good I am as a wrestler. I know that, in my humble opinion, I'm one of a kind. I know what I could do in ring. I know how I look physically. I know that I could talk on the mic. So if I'm not in a spot that I deserve, I should be, money is not attractive to me to get me to be happy with where I'm at. I want to play. I don't want this much money to be on the bench. I want to be on the field. So I had to think about that. And at that point, I don't know if I was confident enough to make that jump and be the starter. I don't know. Wrestling is one of those things that it doesn't matter on how talented you are. It matters on how somebody perceives you. So your control is out of your hands.
So you knew the position you had in TNA.
Yeah.
But AEW or WWE, you didn't know how you'd be used there.
I know how good I am.
Sure.
And I know if I go to any of those companies, I should be up there with whoever their superstars and top guys are.
Yeah.
But like I said, the difference between wrestling and pro sports is it doesn't matter about how talented you are. It matters about whoever's writing the script, how they perceive you. So I could be the best athlete, best look, best on the mic, and the guy writing the stories thinks the next guy's better, and I get to stay at home.
You teased working with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Was that just like, let's have some fun on Twitter, or is that something you actually wanted to do?
No, honestly, like I said, wrestling is I respect Roman. I think he's our generation's Hulk Hogan or John Cena, whatever you want to call it. So to me, it was an opportunity. There was the whole, what was it
Forbidden
called?
Door.
Forbidden Door thing. And who knew? I mean, Mickie James was working with us as the Knockouts champion, and she went to the Rumble. So it was a way for me to see, hey, let me flip a coin and let's see what happens with this, Roman Reigns was their top guy. I respect him. I think he's a great, talented, one of the best wrestlers. Like I said, our generation's Hulk Hogan. And I know who I am as a pro wrestler. And I mean, that's a matchup that I think a lot of people would want to see. And so I still think it's a matchup a lot of people would want to see. And who knows with the way wrestling is going, right? So, those were my big two reasons for staying with TNA is that's pretty much it.
Does this mean you've signed this long contract? Does that mean you think you'll retire in TNA?
I can't answer that question because I don't know. I can't tell the future. I can't tell you literally if we're going to wake up tomorrow, So I can't speak for that. But I will say this. I'm not one of those guys that you see that wants to wrestle till he's 60 or 50 years old. That's never been my goal. I want to be able to leave wrestling young and still be able to run around and play with my kid and be active and do fun things. So I can't tell you that I'm going to retire in TNA, but I do know for a fact that I'm not one of those guys that's going to wrestle till he's 50 years old. And I turned 40 this year.
Yeah, you turned 40 this year.
Yeah, so I can't answer that question. It all depends on how I feel physically. If I still have confidence in my abilities to still perform the way I perform now, and if I feel like there's any dip in that down the road, then I'll hang it up.
How do you feel about turning 40 this year? I just turned 40 last year, and I thought it'd be this big thing, and I don't know, life just kind of rolled on.
Honestly, age is nothing but a number to me because right now I feel better than I was when I was in my 20s. So
better than when you were in the NFL?
I feel 10 times better than when I was in the NFL. I feel better. I think I'm faster than I was. I know I'm faster than I was. I'm more athletic than I was.
Do you think you could beat your combine times
yes,
now?
in every single thing.
Really? All of
in
them?
bench press.
What are your combine numbers?
I ran a 40 at 294 and the 498 or 499.
Pretty great for a lineman.
I think at right now 55-ish. If I trained to run a 40, I probably could run like a 4.7. Like I honestly could run like
at almost 40 years old. Who are you? T.O.?
Yeah, like
amazing.
Bench press, I did it 21 times. I know I could probably do 30 now.
Wow.
So I think I could beat my combine times in every single facet right now.
Wow.
At the age 39.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
So I feel better. But going back to the retirement thing, I can't answer that question. Am I going to retire in TNA? I mean, sure, I would love to retire in TNA because I love TNA. TNA has been my home for the last 7-8 years, And another thing, I forgot to mention this on why probably one of the biggest reasons why I decided to eventually stay with TNA. Right now, when you hear the words TNA, probably 3 wrestlers you think about. I know one for sure you think about, AJ Styles.
Sure. I think a lot of people think about that era, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people immediately go to that Unbreakable 2005 match.
Right.
Daniels and Samoa Joe and AJ.
Yeah.
I think that for a lot of people is TNA.
So for me, when you hear the words TNA, me personally, I think of AJ Styles. I think of Abyss, and I think of the guy who founded TNA, Jeff Jarrett. And my goal is when my time is done with TNA, when you hear those words TNA, the first name you think about is Moose.
What's the match you've had that you're the most proud of in TNA?
There's been a bunch. Obviously, my match with Shelley is up there. My match with Josh, the one when he finally beat me for the World Championship. Just that whole story.
I like how hard it was for you to say that. Beat me.
Just that whole storyline was magical. And working with Josh, he's another friend of mine that I forgot to mention earlier. He's a great, great, great wrestler. And he does it so well. And he's probably, there's a reason why they call him the standard bearer at TNA, right? Because his knowledge for wrestling is just unmatched. But yeah, working with him, very memorable moments in match and feud. Obviously, all my matches with Eddie are memorable to me because he's one of my best friends. Man,
there's a lot.
There's a lot. There's a ton. There's a lot.
When you talk about your friends, I think another really interesting one is Natty and TJ.
Yeah.
And there's been these videos of you working out in their dungeon and training in their dungeon.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so cool that you see these people from all these different companies working together, all these veterans that are working together and iron sharpening iron in there. And that idea of the dungeon, I think, is just such a smart thing.
Right. And so I became, in a short period of time, really close with those two. And you know what's so crazy to me? I didn't realize, I always knew TJ was a fantastic wrestler. But I didn't really watch, girls wrestling that much. But I didn't realize how great of a wrestler Natty is until I started training with her.
Oh, good.
She, when we have these debates about your top 3 or your top 5, to me, she's number 1.
Wow.
To me, she's number, because I've seen her in training. We sometimes have practice matches, and I've seen her call a practice match with a girl from NXT or a young girl who's only been wrestling for maybe 2 years. And this is a match that you could probably see at a pay-per-view or a Raw or a SmackDown.
Wow.
And she's literally carrying this young girl through this. And in my mind, I'm like, there's no other girl that I know of that could do that.
Yeah.
To me, she's number 1. And I didn't realize how good she was until I saw training with her. And just those two human beings, they're great, great friends of mine. I wished I could see how great TJ would be now if that accident never happened with him. But he's still a great mind for wrestling. I still sometimes hit him up and ask him his ideas for, what do you think about this? Do you think this works? Why would you? I just like his brain. I just like learning from those guys. And it's awesome to have them as your friends.
Who are some of the famous roommates that you've lived with?
Man.
There's been a lot.
There's been a lot. You've had him on your show, Swerve. Strickland.
Okay. Yeah.
We lived together. Jordan Grace, our current Knockouts champion. Her husband, good friend of mine, Jonathan Gresham. EC3, Ricochet, Tessa Blanchard, DJZ, now known as Joaquin Wild.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
You've probably seen some stuff.
Yeah, I've seen it all. Trust me, I've seen it all. But they're all great people. Like I can't say one bad thing about any of them. They're all great people.
Who sleeps in the latest?
Sleeps in. That's a good one.
And this isn't a bad thing. Maybe they just stay up late.
Honestly,
they just like to sleep.
Honestly, we're all similar. We're all like real old, go to sleep early type people.
Old.
Yeah.
Except for last night.
Yeah. I will tell you this. I think who goes to sleep the earliest is probably EC3.
That guy's so regimented.
Yeah.
He is.
EC3 is he's not even a real person. He's Terminator. It's like it's a machine in there. It's like he's not even a real human being. That's what my beliefs is. Like he's a walking machine. Yeah.
I feel like you're a machine when it comes to your spear. Like the way that you do your spear is unlike anybody else.
Oh, so funny story about the spear, and it's so annoying because sometimes like I'll go the few times I will go on Twitter and I'll see some idiot like, oh, you stole Bobby Lashley's move. And it was like, first of all, Bobby, great friend of mine, great individual, so happy for his success. But if you look at the footage of when I started doing the spear, the flip and spear, I started that in Ring of Honor in 2014, and Bobby was just doing a regular spear. But I didn't make the spear up. Everything is stolen in wrestling from somebody.
Sure.
So I remember training wrestling in 2012, and Curtis Hughes had an indie show that he just did. And we was watching some of the matches in his indie show, and there was some guy in it, I can't even tell you what his name is. He did a spear, and he actually flipped in it. And I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. Like, I don't even know what I've seen. Like, can we rewind that? He rewinded it, and I saw it again. I was like, I think I want that to be my finish. It makes sense. I'm a football player, right? Like,
yeah.
Now, can I flip when I spear somebody? And I did it, and it was so easy, and it didn't hurt my opponent. And I was like, well, this is my finisher. And
was there a point in Impact when you and Bobby were doing it at the same time?
No. So when I signed with Impact, they told me, Bobby's been here. He's the guy. He's the world champion. You're the new guy.
Yeah.
We want you to not do the spear anymore. And I totally get it. I respect it. Like I said, I have tons of respect for Bobby. I've learned so much from Bobby. Probably one of the nicest guys you'll meet. Like, behind all that muscle and grittiness is a nice human being. And I can say personally, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And I respect him to death. So when Biggs told me, hey, our champion, top guy, he's doing the spear, can you think of something else? I was like, oh, easy. One of my favorite wrestlers at the time was Okada, and he does the Rainmaker. So I did my own variation of his move, which I still do sometimes.
There was a point in TNA when you were wrestling with no knee pads.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I see someone wrestling with no knee pads, I'm like, are you crazy?
Yeah. So the story behind that is actually really, really funny. So I was doing an indie show, which TNA, another great thing about TNA, they allow you to do indie shows to get out there to work on stuff that Like you could try it in a match to make extra money. So I was doing an indie show, and it was for a buddy of mine. A good friend of mine, Sean Jacoby in San Diego, and he was having a birthday party for his 10-year-old son. His 10-year-old son is a great, is a huge wrestling fan. So he calls me. He was like, Moose, can you do me a favor? I'm having a bunch of AAA guys come, and I want to pay you whatever your rate is to wrestle in a match against Phoenix in Pentagon. I forgot who I even tagged with, but you'll be wrestling those guys, and it'll be in my huge house, my backyard. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm wrestling in backyard of my good friend's house.
Yeah.
I don't really have to do anything because it's like a festival show. How I look at it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna pack tights and boots. So I get to the house, I put it on, and I'm like, oh man, this actually doesn't look bad. Like this looks really, really, really good. And it's literally, I tucked my trunks into my boots and put in my suitcase.
Oh, so easy to travel.
So easy to travel. So I was like, oh my God, why haven't I done this for years? Like, so I did it, and the match was so easy, but I didn't realize, like, the reason why I worked, because I didn't really have to do anything in the match. It was a festival show. I didn't even have to take a bump. It was like just ha-ha, you know what I'm saying, making kids laugh or whatever.
Yeah.
So I tried it with TNA, and very short into my run of wearing no knee pads, I do a drop kick. I'm wrestling Bully. I think that's what it is, who I'm wrestling. And I do a drop kick, and I land straight on both my knees. And I thought I broke my kneecap. I thought I broke my kneecap. And I was like, oh my God. And that pain stayed with me for like 2 weeks. And it was a quick decision. And like, yep, going back to knee pads, going back to packing my heavy bags.
How many matches was it with no knee pads?
Probably a good month.
Okay.
A month and a half run, so maybe 5 matches.
So pretty quick.
The drop kick with Bully is what caused it to go back to wearing knee pads. Yeah.
Yeah. So you learned the hard way.
I learned the hard way. It's so funny that when I did it, all my friends, all the boys was like, that's the dumbest fucking thing you could ever do. Like, I give you a month or 2, you're going to go back to wearing knee pads. I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, Greg the Hammer Valentine did it. Like, I'm naming all these wrestlers that did it. Like, they did it, and they lasted for a very long time. And
Ric Flair practically does it because his knee pads would always fall down.
Ric Flair really didn't really do anything athletic. As great as he is, like, he was more of a standard chop, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I do drop kicks. I do run up, land on my stomach. I do crazy stuff. So for a guy doing the stuff that I'm doing, wearing knee pads, it was probably the dumbest idea ever. Definitely the dumbest thing I've ever done in wrestling for that month and a half span of no knee pads. Yeah.
Your chops are so loud.
Oh.
I think that people talk about Big Show's chops, obviously. They talk about Gunther's chops. Yours are right up there.
It takes a lot of practice. And the funny thing about chops, I hate doing them.
Really?
People don't realize not only does it hurt your opponent, it hurts you, because my hand at the end of the night is red and is like shaking by the end of the night. And people don't realize that. People hear the chop and it's like, oh my God, did you feel that guy's chest? You see his handprint? No, look at my hand. My hand is like, it's almost like a boxer from boxing. What do they usually do after the fight? They put their hand in a bucket of ice because the knuckles are like tore up. That's how my hand feel.
But there's this exchange at Hard to Kill where Shelley chops you.
Yeah.
It's loud. You chop him, it's like a gunshot. And then he chops you, it's loud. You chop him, it's even louder this time.
But the thing about, I learned throwing a proper chop from one of my good friends again. I feel like this interview just me putting over my good friends. But,
that's who you are.
Yeah. Jay Lethal, he taught me how to do a chop, because I remember I wrestled Jay Lethal. We was in Ireland, maybe somewhere in Europe. and we had a match, and it chopped me, and it made the loudest noise I've ever heard, but I didn't feel a thing. And I was like, what the hell? And then he did it again, and it was like a gunshot, but I didn't feel a thing. And then after the match, I was like, yo, bro, you have to show me how you chop, because it was really loud, but I didn't feel it. And he told me how to cup your hand to make the sound, and it doesn't kill your opponents.
You also look like you're doing it with not just your hand, like maybe some of your forearm too. I don't know.
I do it the Japanese way, but it's usually my hand hitting you. My forearm doesn't really. There's some guys like Eddie Kingston. He does it the actual true Japanese way, where he lays his forearm in you with his hand. Me, I kind of deceptively show you like I'm doing the Japanese way, but it's really just my palms.
It's very loud.
Yeah, is a lot of practice doing it, and then the guy you're wrestling has to be sweaty enough to get that loud. If you have the proper cup and the guy's sweating properly, it's going to sound like a gunshot.
What if they're too baby oiled up? Does that matter?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. It's the right amount of cup and the right amount of sweat.
When you look back at...
But I remember we was in Europe after they announced TNA, and it was me and Brian versus the Machine Guns. And everybody in the boys, you probably don't know this, but everybody in the back knows what happened, because I gave Sabin a chop that probably almost ended his career. Legit almost ended his career.
What happened?
So it happens once in a while. Like, it's probably happened to everybody, but it happened this night. It was me doing it to Sabin. So sometimes if you chop and the guy is either really sweaty or you don't cup hard enough, you hit and you slide up. So I chopped him and it slid up and it hit him right in the throat. And Sabin literally didn't sell the chop, just got out the ring and walked to the back. And the whole time we're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And Brian Myers, we had a spot. Brian Myers was upside down, and he just stayed there for like 4 minutes waiting for Sabin to come back so we could finish the spot. Because I was like, oh my God, did I just kill him? And afterwards, Brian Myers hit this. He tweeted, he was like, well, I witnessed Moose chop Sabin and almost end his career. And everybody popped for it. Yeah, so. But that happens probably once a year for me, where I would chop and it slides up and it kills your throat. Yeah. And that's happened to me. Like, people have chopped me that way and caught me. So it's something that happens, and it's an accident. It's never.
That's one of those things that look like it doesn't hurt. Like if you're just watching it on TV, you'd never know.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. It's like, oh, geez,
right.
Probably hurt.
I will tell you this: learning wrestling. I've been wrestling for 10 plus years now, and I can now tell you officially that overhand chop hurts way more than a knife edge chop.
Really?
I don't know why. I don't know. I don't understand the physics behind it, but I can tell you from experience that an overhand chop hurts.
Who does a great overhand chop?
I don't know who does a great one. To me, the best one so far, because the only one I've ever gotten, it was from Shelley. And after the first one, because he was going 3 for 1, and he gave me the first 3, and in my mind, I was like, fuck, I have 6 more of these. Oh, shit. So right now, Shelley has the best overhand chop in wrestling history. So, and I'm never going to take another one to find out who's number 2. So,
I think Penta has a pretty great overhand chop.
I would never know, because I'm never taking another one of those. So.
The really cool thing about the TNA roster right now is you've got some veterans who have been there and who have done it and who are some of the very best in the business. You've also got some great young talent in their 20s. So it's like, and TNA is in such a great spot right now. Yeah. And TNA is also going to be in such a great spot for years to come.
Years to come, yeah. I honestly love our roster. I love the human beings on our roster. There's nobody on our roster that you'll ever be like, he's an asshole, or he's a bad person, or I don't want to be around that person, or he's a shithead. And you hear that in other companies. You hear rumors, obviously, not in Impact, not in TNA. I'm sorry, and I think that's because Scott D'Amore and management do a proper, fantastic job looking into the guys they're bringing in and how is it going to work morale wise with the other guys they have already in the roster. And we say this all the time, and you hear a lot of companies say this, and I think it's bullshit. But when I say it, I think it actually is very true that we are a tight family in TNA. We always want to see the next person succeed because we know if they succeed, the whole company succeeds and more eyes on us and everybody makes money. And you never want to see somebody fail. You always want to see your colleague or your family or your brother or your best friend or the guy that you're going to war with inside the ring do great, because if he does great, that means you did great, and that means the company did great.
If you look back at your TNA debut 8 years ago, 2016, what do you think about that version of yourself?
Oh, a kid, green as grass. I didn't know what wrestling was then. I thought I did, but knowing what I know now compared to when I came in then, I was a kid.
This might be difficult, but who's on your TNA Mount Rushmore?
Oh, that's easy.
Okay.
That's very easy. AJ Styles, Jeff Jarrett, Abyss, and Kurt Angle.
Wow. Yeah. I was wondering if you're going to put yourself on there.
No, not yet. But ask me that question in 5 years.
All right, we'll do this again in 5 years.
5 years.
We'll figure it out then.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you think of those four people and how different all of their styles are, but how great the work was that they put in.
Yeah.
And really, they shaped a lot of what TNA was during that time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people totally forget about Abyss when they talk about the Mount Rushmore of TNA. But if you think about all the crazy concepts of matches that TNA has, Abyss was the guy who made some of those matches up, or he was in them.
Like which ones? Like obviously Monsters Ball. Yeah.
Abyss.
Huh.
Lethal Lockdown. It was Abyss versus somebody.
Yeah.
The match I had with Raven's Clockwork Funhouse, whatever it was, Abyss was in there with Raven. It's like some of this crazy matches that you've thought about that was created was the sole purpose for Abyss to show what he was good at. And then if you talk about AJ Styles, obviously you have to put him in the Mount Rushmore because, like I said, that's the first name that comes up in people's heads when you say those three letters TNA. Jeff Jarrett, you have to put him because without Jeff Jarrett, they wouldn't be a TNA. Literally, they wouldn't. So he has to be your Mount Rushmore. He's the founder of the company. And then I think Kurt Angle, the reason why he has to go on that Mount Rushmore because Kurt Angle did for TNA what John Cena did for WWE.
And I think that people don't give enough credit to how big it was when Kurt Angle debuted in TNA in 2006. Mm-hmm. When he debuted in 2006, that was a serious, like, are you
serious? Yeah.
No, like, he's here?
He's here, yeah.
Like, the roster didn't even know.
Right, yeah. And he pretty much carried the roster. And a lot of people don't know this. His run in TNA was longer than his run in WWE.
And Kurt Angle said that the last interview that we did. And I think a lot of people don't
know that. Yeah. He was in TNA longer than he was in WWE.
And he had some of his
best matches in TNA, not WWE. So, like, he did so much for the company. And I think without him, TNA wouldn't have been in that era of having 1 million views a week. And, like, he was the sole purpose for that. So.
What do you think of the landscape of pro wrestling where we're at right now with so many great options?
Oh, pro wrestling is great right now. It actually reminds me of how I viewed pro wrestling growing up as a kid, where you had WWF, you had WCW, you had ECW coming up, and it was those big three, and it was like, oh my God, this day is WWE, or this day is WCW, this day is what ECW. Now there's even more. There's literally there's a wrestling show on every single day of the week.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? Except for Sundays, and sometimes there's pay-per-views on Sundays.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get on a Raw Monday, NXT Tuesday, AEW Wednesday, Impact Thursday, back to WWE Friday, and I think
AEW Saturday,
and then a pay-per-view Sunday. Is like every day of the week. Crazy. Like, and we haven't even talked about New Japan when they had their big shows, or AAA when they had their
NWA
shows, CMLL, like NWA, like Ring of Honor, like wherever they're at. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think right now this is the best generation or the best time in wrestling history, because there's so many different companies and there's so many ways for guys who decide to do this for a living, to make money, to make a living. And I'm just happy for where wrestling is right now.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan, but subsequently a great time to be a wrestler too. Right. You've got so many options. Right. Like, if it doesn't work out for you, you don't fit in this company, there's a whole bunch of other spots you can make a living.
Right.
And that wasn't the case for a long time. Right. It was either you were with WWE or you tried to make it on the indies.
Right.
Now you've got an opportunity to sign a contract in a lot of places.
A lot of places, actually make good money doing this.
I'm so excited for what's, the future is to come for you, but you've been on an amazing run right now.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. I just surround myself with a lot of great people, great individuals, and guys who I know can make me be a better man in life and in this profession. And I think that's all it comes down to. So as long as I keep those same company and keep my same work ethic, I think 2024 would be great for me.
Mr. TNA. You went from Mr. Impact to Mr. TNA.
You know what? I actually threw away all the monikers.
No monikers?
No more monikers.
Just straight up Moose?
Straight up Moose.
You know how hard it must be for a ring announcer to say a one-syllable name?
I think it should be easy.
Moose! Moose!
I think it was time to give up the monikers, because I feel like now everybody wants to be called something.
I feel like if I pull up your Instagram right now, it still says Mr. Impact Wrestling, doesn't it?
No, it says Moose.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got all the world's information here in my pocket.
Yeah, it says Moose. There's Moose.
It says Mr. Impact Wrestling.
Really? I thought I changed that to...
Here, I got your phones over here.
Yeah, I thought I changed it to...
Yeah, look.
Oh, that's my Instagram. I said my Twitter.
Oh, okay,
my Twitter. Go on Twitter. What does it say on Twitter?
Okay, we're gonna go on Twitter.
I probably forgot to change it. I'm gonna change it now, obviously. But Twitter, I definitely changed it.
I hate how difficult it is, Twitter, to find people's usernames. Like, if I don't if your name is like the something or it's something, and I just type in Moose or whatever. What is your?
I think it is the Moose Nation.
Yeah, that's right. See. So if I type in Moose Nation, which is your name on Instagram, it doesn't come up unless I type the Moose Nation. Mm. Okay, you don't have a bio there.
Yeah, it just says Moose. Yeah. I think
says Moose.
I totally forgot to do it for Instagram.
Well,
but I also with Instagram, I kind of make it more me as a human being, Quinn Ojanaka. And I do put a lot of work stuff on there, but my Twitter is strictly just Moose as a character.
Well, when we get off this interview, I guess you're changing that.
Yeah, I'm changing that. From Mr. I have to, because we're not Impact anymore. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Dude, congrats on everything.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're on a hell of a run right now. I think that, this speaks for itself right here. I end every conversation talking about gratitude. It's such a big part of my life. Mm-hmm. I wake up every day. I say out loud 3 things I'm grateful for. It's a practice I do before I go to bed as well. In fact, my wife texted me last night when I was still at the show. She's like, I'm heading to bed. Here's the 3 things I'm grateful for. I'm like, oh, man. So what are 3 things you're grateful for?
I'm grateful for all the individuals that in this path that I'm on, that I've met, that have helped me get me to this part. Obviously, my wife being one of them. She's so supportful. And without her, I probably wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. Like, I look at her as even more than a wife. I feel like and people say this, our relationship has gradually changed from spouse to, like, she's actually my best friend. you know, and without her, I wouldn't be in this position I'm in. She's so supportful. She just gets me, you know what I'm saying? And it's hard to find somebody that just understands you, you know what I'm saying? So I'm very grateful for in this path of life of meeting some of the great human beings that I've met. I'm always grateful to take another breath because you never know. I mean, in 2023, we lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you never know when your last breath is. So every time I wake up, I'm grateful that God gave me another breath of life. And I'm grateful I get to do something I truly love for work.
Yeah. Grateful for you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Congrats on this. So glad we were able to catch up in person.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I'm trying to remember the last time we did an interview. It was probably like a 5-minute thing I forgot what show it was.
We did something over Zoom, like maybe heart of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But then the very first interview, I'll even pull it up here. I drove to like Orlando is when I was living in Miami. And let's see if you even remember this one. This is from a long time ago.
Man.
So we did an interview 2 years ago, and we also did an interview. Oh, geez, I got to go way back here.
I thought we did an interview like it was at some show.
It was outside of a hotel.
Yes, I do remember.
Yes.
It was in California, wasn't it? No, it was in Orlando. I do remember that. Yes.
Look at that hat you got on.
Yeah. That's when I first got to TNA.
Yeah.
That was early. I do remember that. Yes.
It says 5 years ago, but I feel like
that's way longer.
It was, I'll give you the exact date here. April 24th, 2018.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Man.
I remember that. Yeah. That was the first ever one we did.
Yeah.
And then the last one I remember, I don't know where it was. Was it a WrestleCon or something? It was something.
No, we did it over Zoom.
Was it Zoom?
Yeah. It was with all the world's information here. This is great. As these ads are playing on my YouTube channel and making all this money. It was October 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was it after was I the champion then? No, I wasn't a champion.
I don't think so. No.
I won it a little bit after. I won it at Bound for Glory in 2021. I believe so.
That was right. I think that was right before Bound for Glory.
Yeah, that was right before Bound for Glory. Right before I won
That's
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And congrats. I'm going to touch this one more time.
No, go ahead.
Okay. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.